What's going on, Sooner Nation? We got to talk a little bit of defensive line recruiting today for the Oklahoma Sooners. I think they got some good news. I think it's something that we can all be positive about. And I've seen a lot of you guys ask questions about the defensive line and where Oklahoma could be potentially going at this position. There's still quite a few targets on Oklahoma's board. And I feel like Oklahoma fans could be surprised at what Oklahoma could do at this position. It could be one of their best position groups in the 2026 class. So join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. I want to hear from y'all. Let me know who you guys want here in the 2026 cycle on the defensive line. Who's your favorite prospect? Who said Jim Nagy, Todd Bates, and Brent Venables go out there and pursue the most? If you're new to the channel, this is where I ask you to hit that like and hit the subscribe button so you're not missing out on any recruiting content, because we talk a lot of recruiting content on this channel. So if you like that, you want to subscribe, because we got it all for you. But looking at the 2026 offer list for Oklahoma, there were a ton of elite defensive linemen. And I think the one a lot of people pointed to it right at the beginning was Valadin Sone, who it feels like Oklahoma's really not in the mix for. It feels like Oklahoma really kind of just stopped pursuing there. And you would imagine in Valadin Sone's recruitment, it's money's going to be a big part of it. Being a borderline 5-star defensive lineman, you got schools like Georgia and Texas and Florida and Auburn and Nebraska. This is just one where I think you can find other prospects, kind of like Sone, that are a little bit more refined and developed, that maybe aren't going to cost Sone type of money. For what you're going to pay for Sone, you could probably get 2 really nice defensive linemen. Now, the question is, who's that going to be? Because you saw Oklahoma lose Taj Overton to the Oklahoma State Cowboys out there in Stillwater, and you also saw Oklahoma lose Danny Beal, which they weren't really in on Danny Beal, but I did see a lot of you guys ask questions about him, so I figured I might bring him up. He was the number 115th player in the 247 composite rankings. He decided to go to the Oklahoma State Cowboys as well. So Oklahoma State's building a pretty nice defensive line class. However, with Taj Overton, it felt like Oklahoma kind of backed off there. There were a couple reasons why. We're not really going to get into it. I know I saw some of you guys in the comments about it a couple videos ago, but yeah, some of you guys know. The question is, who on Oklahoma's board do they realistically have a shot with? And Elijah Golden is one of them. He's got a commitment date coming up. And you really look at Notre Dame, Alabama, and Oklahoma as his top 3 schools, the schools that could be vying for his commitment. The only thing here is with Elijah Golden, it appears Notre Dame is going to win that one. It appears Notre Dame is going to get that commitment. And the Oklahoma Sooners could be having to pivot once again. However, they still have a really lot of nice prospects on this board. And this is where I think we got to shift to the first one that I think you could see swing in Oklahoma's favor, and that is going to be Tron Richardson, the 6'2.5", 295-pound defensive lineman out of Hopewell, Virginia. Got a total of 20 offers, but today he dropped his top 6 schools. You had Penn State, South Carolina, the Florida Gators, Maryland, Virginia Tech, and of course, Oklahoma. Now, currently, he's only the 789th ranked player in the 247 composites, currently ranked a 3-star. But let me tell you, I definitely think in the regular season, you're going to see him continue to rise in the rankings. He's a two-way athlete, plays football, is a track and field athlete. So, you know how Oklahoma really loves multi-sport athletes. But he took a visit to Oklahoma on June 6th, went to Penn State on June 13th, South Carolina on June 16th, and Virginia Tech on June 20th, and Syracuse on May 30th. So the Oklahoma Sooners here, obviously, for a kid out of Virginia, you got to look at that Virginia Tech offer and go, that probably means a lot to that kid. And it wouldn't be the first defensive lineman battle that you've lost Virginia Tech. Additionally, you got schools like Penn State and South Carolina. They're on the East Coast that are really good at developing defensive linemen. So this is not going to be an easy battle for Oklahoma, but it's one that I definitely think Jim Nagy and the Oklahoma Sooners are willing to try to go out there and win. So the question is, how does Tron feel about Oklahoma? He has a good relationship with Todd Bates. He's been to Oklahoma. It's not like he's never been here before. So this isn't somewhere where you're playing from behind. You know, If you're Oklahoma, you would like to try to get this thing wrapped up in the month of July instead of potentially having this drag into the season. But I definitely could see this drag into the season, as you could probably see with a lot of other recruitments. And that's where we're going to kind of shift to Duce Geralds, because a lot of Oklahoma fans are pretty familiar with this defensive lineman. He was a guy at one point that was a 5-star, but right now he's the 73rd player according to the 247 composite rankings out of Swanee, Georgia. However, the Georgia Bulldogs never got in the mix. But you got schools like Ohio State and Michigan and LSU and Oregon and Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn. Duce Geralds is wanted by everybody. And you hear him in camp settings, he is a mean dude. And so Todd Bates and the Oklahoma Sooners looking at getting him potentially in the regular season. Duce Geralds would be a big-time addition for the Oklahoma Sooners. Does not feel like they're out of that race yet, but maybe where it felt like at one time Oklahoma had a lead, maybe that has faded just a little bit, but he still is on the board. And if Oklahoma definitely had to pivot to another defensive lineman because they lost somebody else, Duce Geralds could be one of those targets that you could see land in the class. Now, another prospect that's on the board that I definitely think you could see Oklahoma go after, and this is probably down at the bottom of Oklahoma's board, is Joseph Terry, the 6'4", 315-pound interior guy. Again, I think this is a guy that plays probably at the 1T. He's, he's probably going to play at the nose tackle. But Joseph Terry loves Oklahoma. If they let him come up for an official visit, I definitely think this is a guy that ends up here and probably would commit that same weekend. So keep your eyes out on Joseph Terry out of San Juan. I believe it's Capistrano, California. I might have said that wrong. Might have completely butchered it. But lastly, in the 2026 class, Oklahoma is after a guy by the name of Tufana Lonatana Umu. I'm probably butchering that name. You guys can go look him up on the 247 website. 483rd ranked player in the 247 composite rankings. 6'3", 307 pounds out of Inglewood, California, out of Cherry Creek High School. Got a total of 31 total offers. So again, we always talk about when we're evaluating players and we're looking at how good they potentially are, you got to look at who's offering them, because the who is who will always go after players. You've got Texas, you've got Miami, you've got Michigan State, you've got Auburn, Arkansas, you've got North Carolina with Bill Belichick. But the Oklahoma Sooners, they have been involved in this recruitment. They've kept their touches. You went to UCLA on May 9th, Washington on June 6th, North Carolina on June 13th, and Colorado on June 16th. If the Oklahoma Sooners wanted this guy, I definitely think they could. He's got a really nice frame. When you go watch his film, really strong player. And so you look at it and you say, okay, if Oklahoma could just land 3 of these defensive line prospects, not only does this really help out your class in terms of where they're at in the recruiting rankings, but this gives Todd Bates a really strong foundation on the defensive line over the next couple of years, which is something Oklahoma has kind of lacked in the past. So that's kind of where Oklahoma's at. The good news was Tron Richardson includes Oklahoma in his top 6. Hopefully that one continues to go in the favor of Oklahoma. Feels like Oklahoma's in a good spot there. They just need to continue to push a little bit more. So I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and hit that subscribe button.